Thank you all that are able to join us here live and those that are going to be watching the recording later. This is, again, the November edition of our HR Council. And we are very happy to be joined today by Logan Lucas. She's the Human Resource Lead with Velocio, based out of a couple different places, but where are you based out of?
Dublin.
Dublin.
Yep.
They were actually a referral from the Dublin chamber, who was going to have Logan, I think, present to one of their HR council meetings, and I don't know if that would happen or not, but we're happy to have Logan here today with us. So, and of course, it's going to be on supporting employee mental health during the COVID-19 pandemic. Kind of a sort of a refresher or a different angle to somewhat of a similar topic we had, early on, and I think it was back in May of this year, and that's forever ago, I guess, in nowadays time. So with that, I believe I'll hand it over to Logan.
Sure. Can you see my PowerPoint?
I can.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, first of all, I just wanted to thank you all for spending a few minutes with me here this morning, chatting about something that's obviously very, very important and very prevalent right now, as we are in, and I promise I won't say unprecedented too many times because I know we hear that a lot, but as we go through the things that we've been going through over the past 9 to 10 months now, employee mental health is something that has really become at the forefront of a lot of our minds as leaders, as human resources professionals. And so I thought this was a really relevant topic, and just wanted to share some of the wisdom, some of the tips and tricks that I've come across over the past year or so, and hopefully be able to impart some ideas for you to take back to your organizations. So as we hop in here, I just wanted to give a quick overview about me, so you know why I'm the one kind of facilitating and chatting with you today. I joined Velocio back in November of 2015. So I just hit my 5-year anniversary with the company. And when I joined, we were about 110 employees, just to give you some perspective on size. And now we're about 350 and continuing to grow. We've been very fortunate to be able to continue growing through the pandemic and through 2020. We have very, very high growth goals. So we're kind of in this nice spot where our industry has not been incredibly affected by the pandemic, but I'll touch on that in a few slides as well. I graduated from Miami University in undergrad with a focus in management and leadership as well as entrepreneurship, and I'm currently pursuing my MBA at The Ohio State University. And at Velocio, I've done a little bit of everything. So I was originally hired to be a talent acquisition specialist and focus on campus recruitment, managing internship program, managing college placement program, mentorship, those types of things. And so with my new role, I actually just transitioned into a new title about a week ago as Employee Experience Manager. And what that means for us is we've invested a lot of resources and focus in the entire employee experience after someone gets hired and onboarded through their departure at Velocio. So everything that fits in the middle there is going to be my responsibility and my team's responsibility. So that's the talent management, performance management, engagement and culture, and those types of things. So just a super high level overview of Velocio, so you kind of understand the environment that I'm in and I'm working in. At a high level, we are a Microsoft partner. So we specialize in selling and implementing the Microsoft Dynamics ERP and CRM solution. So we're a tech firm through and through. We really focus on, I think this slide will give a better example. We really focus on helping our clients build their businesses and grow their businesses in a meaningful way through technology. And we do that through a lot of different channels, but we have a really proprietary and cool methodology that we use to get our clients up and running on these systems quickly. We try to make it easy through our project management methodologies and the experts that we hire as consultants. And we also leverage, obviously the technology and the data through business intelligence and a lot of really cool techie things that our consultants are really focused on. So, as I mentioned, we've got just over 350 employees. We've been around for over 32 years. Velocio itself is a new name that's only been around for about 2, but that's because of mergers and acquisitions. But we've got clients that you've heard of, even though you may have never heard of us. We work with a lot of mid-sized clients, a lot of manufacturing and distribution, but these are just a few of the names you may recognize that we've had our hand in. So, without further ado, when Matt and I were talking about some of the different topics that I thought would be relevant for this kind of group, I really thought that mental health was something that is talked about a lot right now, but it's talked about in such a scientific way that I think it makes it difficult to translate from the science and from the psychology and the psychiatry into business, and how we as human resources leaders and as leaders in general can help support mental health and why it matters to organizations. So I found this HBR article that I think that's the grad student in me that's been really big into HBR this year, but there was a survey taken in May that showed that 42% of employees have experienced a decline in mental health since the pandemic began. As we know, that was 2 months after the world started to shut down. 42% of people already experienced a decline. So if we think about what's happened since May, how much worse has it gotten? How much more has it changed? And really, what can we do to reverse some of those negative effects that it's had on us and help support our employees in that way? Mental health, I think has had a stigma in a lot of ways where it seems to be a very personal thing, where a lot of employees have tried to segregate that side of their life from their work life. The things that are happening at home and the things that are happening in your mental health have been really, really separate from what's happening at work. But what we're finding is that poor mental health can affect not only our employees, but also bottom line for our organizations through things like increased risk of workplace injury and accident, depending on the type of environment you're in, decreased performance, decreased productivity, increased risk of error, high turnover. I mean, I think a lot of these things are they're not rocket science, they're not new aha moments, but there are things that we can do as leaders to help mitigate some of these risks. So I really, really like this graphic because I think it shows a really good picture of all of the different factors that play into a person's mental health. There's the genetics piece, there's biology, there's environment, and there's lifestyle. And of course, we can't really have an impact as leaders on all of these things. What we can focus on is the environment and the lifestyle that our employees are experiencing, and the small piece of their lives that is work, we can really have an impact on. So we'll dive into that just a little bit as well. So what can we as leaders do? You'll hear me say a lot of this, we as leaders, because I think that even if you don't have direct reports or if you're an individual contributor, we can all lead by example. And a lot of the tips and tricks that I have in here are able to be done by anyone in an organization. And I do want to preface this by saying, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a mental health expert, I'm not a counselor. I'm a millennial who really cares about mental health, who has experienced, a lot of friends going through things this year that we've kind of had to work through, and I'm an HR professional and I'm an HR leader at a mid-sized company, so this is really important to me, and I, for those of you who have joined us and are going to be watching this, I'm sure it is important to you as So I have 6 kind of topics that, as I'm thinking about what we can do as leaders, have kind of popped up in my head. And certainly there are others. And at the end, I would love to hear if anyone on this call has any other, tips and tricks that you've used or what's worked for you in your organizations, because I think we learn a lot by sharing with others. But the first thing that we as leaders can do to help support the mental health of our employees is to be a human. I think one of the really good things about the pandemic is it's starting to normalize mental health challenges that, again, we've separated from work for very good reason, but it's really starting to destigmatize the mental health issues and challenges that people might be facing. The second bullet point, I threw in the word almost. Everyone has been challenged because I'm sure someone out there has not even been affected at all. I can say that every single person in my life has been challenged in some way by this pandemic. And whether it's something as simple as just not getting to see a loved one who might be in the hospital or having a baby or being furloughed or not being able to go, to Target and just roam around like they used to for whatever reason, almost everyone's been challenged. And so it's important to remember that as humans, we're all experiencing this in some way. I think the other really interesting thing is there's been a ton of forced transparency that's come from having to work from home. As I mentioned a couple of times already, there used to be this separation of when I'm at work, I am in work mode 100%, and then when I go home, I'm in home mode. Unfortunately, when we're working from home, that's not the case anymore. I'm sure everyone has stories of either four-legged coworkers or underage coworkers popping into Zoom calls, grocery deliveries, interrupting a meeting, whatever it might be. There's this new transparency and there's this new human component of our coworkers that I don't think we ever really had before. I work really closely with our CEO, and I feel like every single week something gets more casual, whether it's he's wearing, a polo in May and now he's wearing an Ohio State sweatshirt with, his glasses on, which he never used to do before. Or I'm seeing his wife bringing him a cup of coffee in the middle of the day. So it's really just humanized, I think, a lot of our coworkers as well as our bosses and leaders. And this graphic, I actually found this a few weeks ago and I cut it out and it's in my office at work. I'm in my home office now, which is why there's a llama, a giraffe, and a koala behind me. But I think that this formula is really critical and something that we can all take with us. Authenticity and vulnerability are 2 pieces of just being a human that I think are understated in the workplace, being authentic and real and being open and vulnerable. And when you combine that with being a credible and successful and determined leader, it creates a trust that our people need from us, especially during these tumultuous times where there might not be stability and there might not be, an end in sight. But having the trust that they can have with their leader, I think will really allow them to remember how we're acting right now once this is all over, and hopefully, create some loyalty in the organization. So that's be human. The second thing that we as leaders can do, and this is way easier said than done, so just bear with me here, is demonstrate healthy behaviors ourselves. It is so easy to suggest to our team members to prioritize self-care and to log off and to unplug at night. But if we're not doing it ourselves, they're not going to feel like they can do it either. So, I think it's super important that we allow and encourage our employees to prioritize their self-care in whatever that looks like for them. These next few ideas are just things that I did this summer with my team to show them that it was important to me that they prioritize themselves. For example, I would be on a team call and I would make sure that I scheduled like a 15-minute break in between meetings. And I would say, hey team, I'm gonna go take a walk, or I'm gonna go grab a cup of coffee and sit on my porch and enjoy the sunshine for a few minutes. And those really small things that that we can do, show our team that, again, we're human, we're trying to be healthy too, and it's okay for them to do that. Another big topic that comes up a lot is PTO, and the fact that some organizations have a use it or lose it PTO policy, right? Well, if you're not going on your typical summer vacation, or we're not traveling to see family as much, employees are scared that they're going to lose this time off, but that time off is still important. So just encouraging employees to take a Friday off, or take a Wednesday, go to the park, go for a walk, go do your grocery shopping in the middle of the day, or whatever you need to do to unplug for a little bit is really important. And then for what it's worth, this is something that my team has loved. I've specifically stopped scheduling meetings and blocked off the 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock hour every day for lunch. Whether or not I work, or if I have an interview or a meeting, I take it, of course. But the importance of logging off is so important when it comes to mental health, and knowing that we can separate work and life a little bit, even if we're home all the time. And my team has really appreciated that because they know that, that they're able to step away and make themselves some lunch, or run out and get food, or do whatever they want to do without feeling like they have to be, tethered to their desk all the time. And then a few other little things, we just hired a new chief HR officer, and I haven't shared this with her yet, but one of the things I've seen a lot of other companies do is offer yoga and meditation services to their team members. And this is such a cheap and easy way to show your team that you're prioritizing their mental health and personal well-being throughout all of this. There are yoga studios in Central Ohio that I know of that are doing a lot of remote yoga sessions. And so it's very, very cheap. It usually ends up only being $8 to $12 a person per session. And they do them throughout the day. They do them after hours. And I think that would be a really cool thing to offer to your employees, just to show them that, we're in this as a team, but here's a really cool way that you can kind of move your body and get your mind right throughout the day. And then this Kimson Yoga, I was actually sent this screenshot by a colleague at a different organization. And this organization they specialize in remote yoga and meditation. The cost varies depending on the size of the organization and kind of what you're looking for, but really cool way to just show your team, again, that this is a priority for you, and that you really want them to, to be mindful and to get through this with good, positive mental health. All right, number 3, what we can do as leaders is foster connectivity. A lot of people are experiencing this pandemic with families and with kids and with a lot of people in their homes, but there's others who are living by themselves, and they're alone all of the time. And so having that intentionality with how we're connecting with each other is really, really important. I personally worked in an environment where I worked in the office 3 days a week and I worked from home 2 days a week prior to COVID hitting. But I still had those 3 days where I was with my team, with my boss. I could pop over and say, hey, I could, walk to the restroom, walk to the water cooler together. But we don't get that anymore. And so you have to be really, really intentional when it comes to meeting with your team and having that regular cadence to make sure they know that you're there and you care about what's going on with them. Remote work, I think this is a really big key too. And being remote makes it harder to see the signs that somebody may be struggling with their mental health. So if you think about a coworker that you may see down, or you may see, is looking like they're not getting enough sleep, or they're not eating well, you can kind of see those things when you're in real life, but when you're behind a screen, it's a lot easier to hide those things. So having the connectivity and having it be intentional is key. I thought this was a kind of a sad statistic, but one that's really important to show. And almost half of workers in that HBR article reported that no one from their company asked if they were doing okay. And I think this is different than saying, how's this project going, or how's this report coming along? It's really saying, how are you doing? How is this affecting you? Is there anything I can do? And I think the other thing to mention is it's okay to not know what to say. It is a little, I think, different approach from the old school HR mentality where we are compliance officers. We have to be very, strict, and there's black and white. I think that COVID has shown us that there's got to be that more human element to what we're doing. And if you don't know what to say, it's okay. Sometimes just asking the question and letting someone talk is enough therapy for them. They just want to know that someone cares what they're going through, cares what they have to say, and is going to be an active listener and try to help in whatever way you can. So the intentionality, you'll hear me say this a couple more times, I think is really key, and being proactive and getting people connected. So the next couple of slides are just ways that our organization personally has tried to foster this connectivity and this connection. One is through Yammer. So I'm sure a lot of your organizations have some sort of internal, either intranet or Yammer, or Yammer for us is kind of like an internal Facebook page where we can post wins, sales wins, new employees, that sort of thing. So this is just one way we've started to use it for welcoming new employees to the organization. This is our new Chief HR Officer, Liz, welcoming one of our new team members, Catherine. Just gives a quick little bio, threw her picture up there so that everyone could see, kind of put the face to the name. And as you can see, there's a lot of really great comments, and it really made Catherine feel welcome. But it also allowed folks from all over the country and all over the company to welcome her personally, and make her feel like she made the right choice to join us. The other thing we've done, and I'm sure some of your organizations have done similar things, is connecting through happy hours and just really casual get-togethers. So we've done, small group happy hours. We've done, virtual book club meetings. We've done, the traditional where you just grab a drink and chat for a little bit after work. But we've also done some more activity-based connections. So Draw Eyes is really fun. Kahoot is a trivia game, and the scavenger hunt. We did that as an HR team, which was really cool. But essentially, everyone gets a gallon-sized Ziploc bag, and they have 10 minutes to go around their home and find items that start with every letter of the alphabet. But the catch is that all 26 items have to fit in that Ziploc bag. And that's really hard. At first I was like, oh, well, A for apple, obviously. Well, you can't fit much more in a gallon-sized bag if you have a big apple in there. And, so you kind of have to be creative. But it was really fun to kind of see what everyone could find in their houses. So the fourth thing we can do as leaders is to offer flexibility where possible. I know that there are folks on this call and that are going to be watching this that work in every industry and every environment possible. I'm very thankful that I work for an IT company where everything can be done remotely, but certainly manufacturing, distribution, hospitals, you can't necessarily offer the same sorts of flexibility. But I would challenge everybody on this call that there's something you can do to be flexible with your people. So that's got to be something you kind of think about in your own environment. But I think the really important thing to remember is that everyone's needs are different, and those needs may change, and we just kind of have to roll with the punches and be okay with that. I also think it's important to not make assumptions of what your team needs. We have one individual on my team who has 2 small children, and all of a sudden had to switch from being, she still works full time, but she has to take 2 hours off twice every week in the afternoon to homeschool. Her and her husband kind of have to switch back and forth. And so I never made an assumption of what she needed. I just asked her. I trusted that she would, get her work done. And she has not had any issue with starting early on those days and getting done a little bit later so that she can carve out the time that she needs to be with her kids. I also think it's really crucial for us to be as proactive as possible with the flexibility. I know that a lot of our team members are very gun shy to ask for flexibility because they think it's going to be like a mark on their record, or they think that we're going to assume that they can't do their jobs right anymore, or whatever that might look like. So as much as possible as we can proactively offer flexibility or offer solutions or options, I think is a really good thing for us to do just from an employee morale perspective. And be as generous as you can. Obviously not every environment can operate flexibility, and that's okay. But there may be something you can do, whether it's, take a couple out. If you can't have flex hours, maybe they get an extra day off in the month if you work in a hospital, which may not be able to happen. Or maybe maybe you're able to give them a little bit more of a home internet stipend, or whatever you can do as an organization to really make this time a little easier, I think is really helpful. Okay, so for this one, I really wanted to just kind of address the fact that I know not everyone can work remotely right now. I'm personally going into the office a couple of days a week just to get out of my house, because I do live alone, and it is nice to see people a couple of days a week. So certainly the in-office stressors are a whole different beast than the stressors you may have when you're working from home. So, certainly I think the number one stressor is just coming to work and getting exposed, right? That is something that every organization has to deal with in a way that makes sense for, for the guidelines that the governor is sending out, to the different health organizations that we're getting feedback from. And I think the thing that's important to remember is that our employees are getting information overload from the news, from the media, from social media, from friends and family, whatever it might be. So we really need to think about how we're approaching this as an organization and just spell it out. How are we handling contact tracing? How are we handling the different precautions specifically to our building? What are we doing to make sure that our employees are safe? And I don't think it's enough anymore to say, here's this sign that says all employees need to take your temperature and whatever, but how are you managing that? Like, how is it actually being done in your organization? Is there someone walking around and just double checking to make sure that all the hand sanitizer stations are filled, or making sure that there's wipes, and making sure that people are wearing masks where they're supposed to be? And are we making it intentional? Are we specifically laying this out for our employees so that they know we're doing everything in our power, and going above and beyond just what the government and the government's governor and the government is recommending? And then this last one, again, not rocket science, guys, but I think that we just need to over communicate more than we think we need to. And it's an expectations thing. A perfect example for communicating expectations is I have an HR coordinator who works for me, who is about half office admin, half HR admin. And one of her core roles is that she gets the mail every day, gets all the checks that our clients send us, and scans them into the finance team, because our finance team's spread out all over the country. And at the beginning of the pandemic, she was going in every day, and she was scared. She did not want to be there. She didn't feel like the office building was necessarily doing everything they could do. And so she brought that up, and what we were able to figure out is she really only needed to go in twice a week, and she goes in before hours. So she goes in at 7:30 when there's no one else there. And really that's all that we needed to do, was figure out what that expectation needed to be and communicate that with her. Also very important to share any resources we have, whether it's safety guidelines or mental health resources, proactively, and talk about them. I mean, in team meetings, on the intranet, post guidelines around the office if you're in an office, and over communicate what your organization has that can be helpful to the employees. This is a really big one too, sharing updated policies and practices. things have changed. You know, we've changed how we do performance reviews. We've changed how people are traveling to client sites. We've changed a lot of different policies and practices. And so we're not expecting our employees to come to us and ask those things. We're proactively providing that information. So really go above and beyond to share any updates with your team members, whether it's through a town hall or on those intranet sites, whatever you've got, and make sure that they know what's expected of them. I think this is, you know, this is me being an HR person, but I think it's really important we communicate celebrating each other. You know, it's really important right now to focus on accomplishments. We all know it feels good to get a kudos or a thumbs up, and you know, and overshare what's going well with the company if there are positive aspects, if you guys are doing well, to share that. One thing that we've really focused on, and I think this is something that everyone can take back with them, but tying accomplishments to company values is really easy way to reinforce organizational identity. Right now, we really want to make sure that our teams are feeling cohesive, that they're feeling connected to the organization's mission, vision, values. And so one way we do that is with every meeting, we pull up our values. And this is just our value statements here. And so when I'm looking to give praise or looking at something good that my team member has done, I try to tie it to one of these 5 values so that they see, okay, what I'm doing actually does fit into what's important to the company, and I fit here, and this is where I belong. And right now, you know, that's a huge way to boost someone's morale and mental health. Another slide that we share with all of our employees, and I just wanted to remind everyone of, is EAPs, or employee assistance programs. I know a lot of organizations have different types of programs that are available. This is just our policy, and if you can see on the, I don't know where my pointer is, but our EAP offers 5 face-to-face sessions with a counselor per issue, and that's free to our employees. And so this is something that we've been sharing out a ton. Historically, our EAP doesn't get a lot of use, but it has definitely increased since the pandemic. And this is something that, I mean, we offer to our employees, and we want them to use, paying for it. But it's a really great way to just, again, reshare some of these programs that you may already have that your employees don't know about. So as I kind of wanted to just put together some final thoughts, just kind of one slide takeaway of what we, again, as leaders can do to help support this mental health. I think it's a crisis in some ways that's going on right now. The second bullet point here I haven't mentioned yet, and that's Talkspace and BetterHelp. For those of you who don't know what Talkspace and BetterHelp are they are apps. They are online apps or cell phone apps that you can download, and it's text and face-to-face video conferencing with certified licensed mental health providers, even if you don't live in an area where there might be counselors or mental health resources. So one of my best friends is an attorney in Pittsburgh, and her company actually has partnered with BetterHelp and is providing all of their employees 3 free months of BetterHelp services. So something, again, that, you know, I'm not sure what the priorities for your guys' organizations are, but certainly doesn't need to be provided to every employee. But as HR professionals, maybe that's something that we think about, you know, budgeting for maybe for 2021 is memberships to things like this that can be another resource for folks who are in distress or who need it. Again, I think the last bullet point also drives home, but just asking your employees how you can support them often goes a long way. They may not need anything, and that's okay, but knowing that you're in their corner is a really, really positive experience, and will help bridge, you know, this gap as we kind of get through, you know, what typically tends to be some worse months for mental health anyway with the winter time. So, you know, I guess with that, I there may be questions, I'm not sure, but I also just want to encourage if anyone that's live on the call has other resources or ideas or what's worked for you guys. I think this is a really good time to share those types of things. And I think it's important to just talk about, different industries and different types of organizations and what works for you. So with that, that's my presentation, but I guess I'll open it up.
Logan, thank you so much. Some great information in there. I do have one question, but while I'm asking my question, if they're, like Logan said, I was interested in any examples of flexibility at the workplace, depending on your industry. That might be interesting to share here, if you can, and any examples of flexibility that you've provided to some of your employees. But the question I had, though, is you mentioned sharing mental health resources across your team. Do you have any specific examples of some of the, I guess, organizations you're plugged into or resources that you would share?
Yeah. So I can certainly get a list of those together, and I can shoot them over to you maybe when you send over the link to the video. I was actually just a part of the Ohio State University grad, there's like a whole acronym, but grad council, where they shared a ton of resources that were available in Central Ohio. So let me get a list together for you. A lot of them are free, if not very, very reasonable. And are available remote, of course, with video conferencing. So from a flexibility perspective, though, I will say a lot of it for us has been revolving around work hours and needing to take breaks for mostly childcare and schooling with remote learning. I think the key that we've noticed is just working as a team. Certainly if our receptionist or the person who handles our main phone line needs to be off for a couple hours, our team has been amazing about pitching in and kind of helping out with that. From a flexibility perspective, I would also say that we've been able to leverage these types of communications and face-to-face a lot more than we ever have before. We've always had a very remote workforce, but I think a lot of times people just get so used to the phone that they don't want to do the face-to-face conferencing. But we've done our board meetings remotely. We've done our 2021 leadership planning meetings remotely, and I think it's cheaper, first of all. It saves the company a ton of money with travel, but it's also given people the opportunity to not have to leave their families and not have to make childcare arrangements and that sort of thing. I'm trying to think. So we also have been able to shift some job duties. So things that, I'll just give you an example. One of our recruiters, we had just a small hiring freeze from, I would say like late April, early May. We never had to do a furlough, which we were super, super thankful of, and never had to let anyone go, but we were on a hiring freeze. And so one way that we were able to be flexible and keep him and help the company is we actually trained him on collections. So getting in cash was really important for the company at that time. So we trained him on collections and we're able to kind of justify not having to do a furlough on a role that we didn't need at the time, because he was able to cross-train and be flexible and was really willing to help the organization in whatever way he could. So those are just a few examples that come to the top of my mind. But I certainly, for those of you who are in offices, I think offering flexibility and physical workspace is really an easy way, if possible. If there's someone who doesn't feel comfortable in a cube, but you have an empty office, or you have an opportunity to reconfigure office space so that maybe people's backs are to each other rather than facing each other, or those types of really small things that can make a world of difference.
Great. Any other comments from those on the call on that topic? Or on childcare?
I have a quick question.
Travis, please.
So, Logan, when you're doing your flexibility, obviously depends on the business. We're a social service agency, so our flexibility is dictated by our individuals more than our employees. We have to serve those individuals, so that's where our flexibility really comes to play. However, with pandemic, we are trying to be flexible as far as staff goes. Now, when you are have staff that's typically in office, possibly going remote, do you offer stipends or anything like that to those that are making that transition to ease that transition, or is that something that is just a benefit that you're offering, and they're just be able to work from home? So I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's a great question. So our employees who are remote, don't live within a commutable, distance to an office, they do get cell phone and internet reimbursement. So we actually just had this conversation yesterday with our CEO. What I think we're going to end up doing, and I'll just tell you guys our plan, is we're going to offer all of our employees an extra $100 a month as a reimbursable amount. So it's not taxed. It's not, it comes in their paycheck, but it's a separate, little doodad for cell and internet. And they can do with that what they want. And part of that is because, we're closing. We just closed our Atlanta office because we hadn't had anybody in there for a year and none of them wanted to go back. So we're saving some costs there. We may downsize a couple of our other offices because we're not anticipating many people are going to want to go back to them. So that cost savings, we're planning on putting right back into our employees. And I think that the way to think about it for us is that, when I was working from home 1 or 2 days a week, if I had, a contractor coming to look at the house or whatever, I could easily just grab my cell phone, take a call, walk outside, whatever. But now if someone's working from home full time, we really need them to have better bandwidth. We need them to have reliable internet. And so we can't expect our people to pay for that extra on their own, especially when they have to do it for work, if that makes sense. I think that it's pretty safe to say that most people nowadays have a phone and they have internet, but if we're going to expect them to use it for work purposes and to be, I guess, at their A game for our clients and for our customers, then we certainly are going to reimburse that. And the number I threw out was $100 a month. I know that's not a ton. It's not going to cover full cell and full internet, but I think that it will supplement enough to make it, to kind of offset that for the employee.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. And I think the other thing to think about too is, what are you saving without having the folks in the office? That's just kind of the way that my mind goes is, we're certainly saving on the snacks and the supplies and whatever you might offer in the office. And it is, but on the flip side, how much money are we saving in gas and clothing and, haircuts and all these things that we're not doing as much because we're not in work. So that's just kind of what we're doing.
There was a comment from Jamie Hawkins, and I was actually going to make that comment myself, but it is referring to we have a local network through our Marion Matters, which is our Bridges Out of Poverty folks. They're doing an employee resource network. And to Jamie's point, it is in some ways similar to an EAP type of referral system where you have one-on-one connection to your employees. I know there's a number of businesses here in this community that are using the ERN, and it's working well for them. And Natalie and Heidi over there are doing a great job. So I'm glad that Jamie mentioned them. And I do believe they have connections to mental health experts and counseling, as she's suggesting. So that's cool.
Yeah. And
Any
I
other
think
comments about?
These are good ways just for us to have in our pockets, just in case an employee does come to us with, with a need. We're able to just refer them pretty quickly and easily. So.
Excellent. Any other comments from some of the folks on what they're doing or to kind of accommodate their employees? If not, I think we'll come to a close here. Logan, thank you so much again for the presentation, and we of course share this video, your slides if able, and the resources that you mentioned to everyone in our council here today, and of course our entire council group as well.
Great.
Excellent.
I thank you for listening to me today and letting me share something that matters a lot to me. So thank you.
Thanks, Logan, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Everyone be safe, and we will see you all next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.